Well, hello, friends and people of the internet. Thank you for checking out another episode of the 15-Minute BJ Podcast. I'm BJ, and today I am joined, as always, by my good friend, Mr. Brian Handy.
There we go.
This is episode number 20, and I know we are coming up on episode 21, which we have promised is going to be a drunk podcast.
Oh, it will be.
So the next episode is going to be very, very sloppy and very, very fun. So make sure you guys check that one out. But thank you for checking out this one. And before we begin, I'd just like to say a special thank you to the 35 subscribers of my YouTube channel.
Woohoo!
I never thought I would come this far in my life to have double digits, let alone double digits 3.5 times over. So thank you guys for subscribing, and let's just keep on trucking.
Yeah.
So if you guys are a first-time listener, make sure you click that subscribe button. If you're an old-time listener, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Actually, don't do that because I think that you'll unsubscribe at that point. But share it. Share this video with your friend and let them know that they should subscribe and get all sorts of BG goodness in the morning.
Yeah, and flick his dingling so you get notifications when we upload.
That is true. There is a dingling that you can flick to get updates. Updates?
Updates.
Updates. I got the wrong letter in that word. Updates for this show and other things like music videos and other random shit that I like to post.
Lots of random.
Lots of random. Actually, not so much random, but it's coming. It's coming. We're still working on a guitar feature. Just trying to get the cameras down on that. You know, I want to make sure that the guitars that I'm going to showcase have a nice look and that they look nice on the internet too. So I don't want to use some shitty phone camera for this. I got to use something nice.
Exactly. I mean, you don't take a model out and snap photos on your iPhone or whatever. You take it out and
use that Canon HD shit.
Them long lenses. Yeah.
So that's what we're aiming for next. So make sure you guys subscribe and also get those notifications. So when it does come, you'll be the first to know.
Yeah.
Today's episode is brought to you by the letter Q. Sorry.
Quality.
That's the 90s Sesame Street in me. But no, today we've got a pretty interesting topic for you. Last week we dove into, last episode we dove into what do you want? What are your wants in life? And this week, we're going to dive into music today. Kids today, damn it.
Because we want to.
So, the topic for this week is what you think of the current state of music. And, I don't know, how we got to this point. So, I'm going to let you take it off because you've been in the scene a little bit longer than I have. And you've probably seen some shit. So, shed some light on what you think about the music industry today. San Diego music today.
The San Diego scene.
Yeah, and what it used to be and what you think it can be.
Well, considering when I first got into the scene and started playing in bands, it was a real underground scene. It was punk bands, hardcore bands, metal bands, but it was all underground. I mean, there were flyers everywhere. Used to go to Old Soma for shows, but after a while, I noticed that the more, mainstream of rock bands got more gigs. It kind of
My American Heart. What?
No, man.
What? Sorry.
It kind of started elevating, just all around bands playing, and getting more frequent gigs, I should say. That you could open the reader and see that stuff like that's really good to have still, but like every scene everywhere, it's all dependent on the current music. And I watched it go from that whole punk hardcore to screamo and emo, which I was a big part of. And then, as far as the current music scene and what it's become after those, I can't really say too much other than it's strong. It's a lot stronger than it's ever been. I see more shows going on with bands playing than ever before. It's very eclectic. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, that's how I kind of feel. It's like right now, there's so many options in San Diego as far as like genre and band and style, and there's like 1,000,001 bands, and luckily a lot of places that they can play. It kind of spreads the scene out, but it spreads it out really thin, in my opinion. Like back in the day, I feel like these little genres and cliques kind of had their crowd, and it didn't really foster for like the growth of much coming out of San Diego. Like you could get big in San Diego with your circle, but because nobody really not one group stepped up and like said, nah, we're going to break genres. We're going to break this, break that. And not like with their own style, but they'll just, they'll play with other bands. They'll play with anybody. They'll do anything. Yeah. Even though people say that, like how many bands actually did that. And the proof is in the pudding that like after POD, what really came out of San Diego? You know, like nobody's really trying to unite all of San Diego. They're trying to get big in their scene, which is dumb because you're only going to get like 300 most people that will know you. You got to get everybody.
It's true.
So, yeah, I mean, back in the day, I don't even know if that was, you know, a thing where, you know, bands thought that way or whatever. I know that when I played in, you know, little pop punk bands and punk bands in Soma too, that it was like we played the pop punk shows and we went to the metal shows, but we never got to play those shows. But if we would have just mixed them and had, you know, like a metal, pop punk, and DJ night, then you'd be bringing everybody together. And that never happened. Never really happened.
Well, during Sin Stereo and during the whole Screamo kind of, we played so many shows where none of the bands fit together. We were all, it was like somebody said, let's throw a dart at the wall. And
yeah, whatever we hit, we're taking.
Whatever we hit, we'll just grab a handful of those guys and bring them in. And some shows were literally like, you'd have Sin Stereo, you'd have a pop punk band, and then you'd have some, you know, thrash or, you know, heavier, like, hardcore band.
Yeah.
But
there's always that progression of those kind of shows. They start with the pop punk band, then they probably get you guys or the metal band, depending on who had the bigger draw that night.
It's an evolution. I mean, you either warm it up or you spit on it and jump right in.
Yeah. See, back in high school, I used to do the shows at God's house when I worked at a church, and I had the keys to the big dining hall. And we threw 5 humongous shows at this church.
Ragers.
And it was really fun because my goal was to mix those genres. Like, obviously, we had my little punk band play, but then we always had, you know, like a heavy-ass rock, metal, whatever band. And then we would try to find someone that didn't fit either of those styles, like reggae, rap, or even we had, like, you know, people from the church come and perform sometimes. Like, but it was really cool because, you know, one band would bring 30 to 40 people from this scene, and one band would bring 30 to 40 people from this scene, another band would bring 30 to 40 from this scene.
Tell your friends to tell your friends.
And all of a sudden we'd have 340 kids like stuffed in this little room, like, and I'm sure that there was more than that because the capacity was 340, but you know, kids were sneaking in, I was letting kids in left and right, so like we would fill this fucking hall.
Anarchy.
And the only reason that happened is because we mixed it, and I don't feel like that happens anymore. And like me personally, my musical journey, I could say more about than I think the scene, because unfortunately, I haven't had much time to be out and involved in the scene like I used to. But for me, the demographic has changed from like, you know, original shows at shows like Soma and God's House and stuff like that, where there was bands coming together, to now it's like just the solo gung-ho like acoustic cover scene where the singer-songwriter guys don't even talk, which is fucking weird.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Speaking of things like that, it's funny. I saw an art like one of those. Oh, look at these 15 things that bands do wrong on stage recently on Facebook.
Not enough dicks.
Yeah, and one of them was people talk too much and banter. And personally, if you're playing the music and you don't connect with your audience other than that, and you're playing upbeat, you know, kind of social music to dance around, sing, whatever, you might as well pack it up and go join like a nerd rock band where it's mathematical musicianship and you're basing it just on your musicianship. Because if you're a musician, and I mean, I suffer from this problem and I've worked towards it like little by little because I'm not a performer as much as I am a musician. I've always been that way. It's a little serious for me because I get in a zone. And you know, since I've played with you and we've done the Bad Motherfolkers and everything, I've kind of livened up a lot. That I never used to jump around.
You even sing now.
Yeah, I know, right? But it's, you know, I think that too many people take those like little things like that seriously, and a lot of musicians nowadays are, like you said, you get an acoustic guy who says nothing. He just plays, you know?
Yeah, you get a lot of that.
And that is true, but we've played with a lot of people, and speaking of, I mean, diverse shows, like every single time we play with another band, we're on completely other levels or just above or below, and it's all kinds of wacky, but we have the best time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
we
the
kind
thing
of just
is,
slide
like, these
right
people,
in.
They're not only not talking to the crowd, but they're not talking to their peers. Like, especially these singer-songwriter types, I've noticed, like, they just don't do shit together. Like, whereas in my mind, as a solo guy, like acoustic guy, I have to compete with full bands, and I have to compete with these big shows where already there's more people on stage than me.
Yeah.
Like, so if I go on stage and then a band goes on stage, instantly the band gets most attention because they're bigger.
They're like, ooh.
But if these solo guys would just get their asses out of their heads and fucking turn around and talk to each other, then we could do some pretty cool shit. Like the Highwaymen, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, they got together and they were like, well, we got one backing band and 3 front guys, and we'll just go back and forth with some banter and some songs. And that shit was golden. But nobody fucking cracks this shit anymore.
I don't know. I think it's just everyone gets stuck at it, especially as we get to certain ages and certain, I mean, most musicians my age in the scene of San Diego right now that I know are pretty much 9-to-5 guys that play in like punk bands, and they do it on the weekends or here and there for fun. They still put out albums like every couple of months, but it's literally like, I do it because I'm just bored.
Yeah.
At least that's the feeling I get. I'm sure they still love music, but it's a scene that kind of evolves as time goes and you get new generations. Like, I have not been to a punk show in a long time where it's like 18-year-olds, all in the band, or 17-year-olds. Every time I go, it's guys either older than me or my age, and they're pretty much doing the same thing they did in like the late and mid 90s. Everybody's afraid. Like, I think the biggest thing I hate about scenes is every scene has the elitists, oh, well, you're doing it wrong, or you're doing it wrong. And I just, as far as I'm concerned,
especially punk, the anarchy side, they got the most rules.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember there were still those when we were like, when I was younger and in this, just getting into the scene, but not as much. We were way accepting. But I do remember being called a poser back then.
I still call you a poser now.
Yeah, well, I strike poses.
That's because I'm an asshole.
But I do see a little more of a, especially with social media, more promotion, cross promotion between bands than there used to be. I mean, it used to just kind of be like, hey, we'll see you when we come through. But now, I mean, I've seen ads for bands that aren't even from the U.S., and it's great. I mean, Band Apart, Kel Bordell, like, I love seeing stuff like that too. And
shout out to the Mannequin Van fam.
But I do. It gets too self-centered around like the hometown, and everybody just gets stuck in their ways. Nobody wants to push themselves out anymore, or if they do, it's basically, I want to go straight to the top and get paid, and I don't want to work.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, especially in the San Diego scene, with it being as kind of like narrowed as it is, you got to work.
Definitely got to work 3 times as hard because it's a big city and there's a lot of people doing the same thing that we are. But yeah, I think that the current state of the music industry or San Diego scene or whatever you want to call it, it's not dire. It's definitely not dire at all. It's blossoming and it's blooming and it's booming. I think it's going to take someone that maybe is even speaking on this podcast to pull some shit together and, work with other people and, push those genre boundaries, because I'm sick and tired of seeing people getting big but not going anywhere because they've only impressed half the audience in San Diego, not even half, so
yeah,
that's what I'm going to try and do. That's what I've decided my contribution to San Diego music before I fucking die or quit is going to be, trying to at least unite San Diego music.
We must come together.
We must, because we're competing with LA, we're competing with New York, we're competing with real cities,
See, and
and those people
you brought up
are even worse about it.
But
if we came up together as one scene, we could be bigger than that, I think. And that's where the bad motherfuckers need to get together and stay out of politics, but get into music politics and, get everybody together.
But like you said, LA, there's a key point there. For years, I've watched people move to LA just to try and make it. Instead of rather working their way out and really pushing, they just go straight to the source. And to me, that's like seriously going and searching for gold in an area where someone says, oh, there's gold in them hills. and you have no knowledge of it, and you're just I'm going to go there. You have no idea what you're doing. You just jumped into the fire, so it's either sink or swim. I'd rather work my way up and just climb the ladder. You know, I'd rather have to knock people out to get there.
A wise man once told me, in order to get big in LA, you got to get big in your hometown. And in order to get big in San Diego, you got to leave San Diego. So I'm going to change that, and I'm going to say I'm going to work my fucking ass off in San Diego, and then I'm going to conquer LA, because it's, I think it's the next step, honestly, from San Diego music to go up to a real city like that, LA or New York.
You definitely got to play out of San Diego once in a while. That's the key too.
Yeah, but before I do that, I want to hit the other cities that are like San Diego, where people are, a little, I don't know, less cutthroat. It's still big, it's still competitive, but it's not going to be LA or New York. Like, I want to get out of San Diego. Next step, probably Colorado. Why not? It's a perfect place for me. And then, go like Oregon, Washington. We've got this whole West Coast place that, could be united. We could be strong. But, we just need that acoustic Tupac. So I'm going to step up. You've heard it now, folks. It's going to be me.
Step up and lay it down.
Yeah, trying to get bands together. So if you know a band that likes to play music and wants to play shows, you send them my way, and we will work something out. That does it for this topic. I think that was a pretty good dive.
Yeah.
Success. We didn't get too deep, but we got just deep enough. So just how the internet likes it. Tip. Before we go, we have a couple of things we're going to address. We are adding a new segment to this show called the Weekly Album. So whether it's me and Brian or me and my guest of the week, we're going to pick an album that has influenced our life in some way, or maybe we're just listening to a lot at the time, and share it with you guys, because that's what this is about. It's about sharing music and getting the music out. So I'm going to have Brian take the lead on this one. Tell me about your album. What did you get today?
Well, my album is from a band that I've pretty much been listening to since I was in high school. I'd actually discovered them in high school. And they're a punkish band, emo band. That's how they got their roots. They're from Berkeley, so, the whole East Bay and all that. And
I really hope we didn't just pick the same people. I don't think we did, though.
No, the band is Sam I Am.
Okay.
And they've been around for a long time, but the album is You're Freaking Me Out. And there was I heard one track on this album probably when I was, I want to say, 8th, 9th grade. And it just, boom, stuck. And it's, the track is called Factory. And the reason I picked this album is because this band writes stories. Like, they actually take a punk, like a good rock, punk, kind of emo, I guess, kind of melodic sound. But it just turns into an actual story, start to finish. Factory, first verse of the song talks about, living across from a mill, a factory, the guy going to the bar and drinking and coming home and, ignoring his family. And it's storytelling, but I like it because it's not a typical story. Typically you get bands like folk singers and you're telling a story, but it's not often you get a band that can really like sing a story. Like Dropkick Murphys is a band that does something like that, I guess you could say. They tell stories in their songs. But Sam I Am's really, like, the whole album start to finish is kind of a progression up and down of just storytelling. But Factory is the main song off that album that I love.
All right, and let's see what the album artwork looks like. So Sam I Am, and the song is Factory. What was the name of the album?
It's You're Freaking Me Out.
You're Freaking Me Out. So you guys need to get out there, check that out. We can't play you any of the songs because I'm pretty sure these bands will all come find us and kill us in our sleep if we play their songs.
They'd murder me. But
we're just doing this so that we can recommend this shit to you guys. So I'm looking at the album right now. I've never seen this before. And it's like a hand holding a match on a firecracker and a whole bunch of like broken glass or something behind it. Very punk rock. I commend you on your punk rockiness. You worried me when you said the East Bay, though, or whatever, the Bay Area, because the band that I chose, and I was kind of worried when I first chose it because it's kind of one of both of our favorite bands, but it's a little more obvious pick. I chose Green Day, and the album is Dookie because it was 1994 when this album was put out. I was 4 years old, and I can actually remember hearing this on the radio a lot, but my sister got really into this band, so I used to steal her CDs and like listen to them when I was a little bit older, like 10 or 11, but I can always remember from my earliest memories, Green Day being a part of my life, and it was this album that started it all for me. And especially like if you just put this album on from start to finish, every song ties into the next song. It blends perfectly. It tells stories. You can relate to it. It's got high energy. It's got songs that make you want to laugh, songs that make you want to cry, songs that make you want to smoke weed, just all sorts of good stuff. And to me, you can't beat this album. Like, this is the quintessential perfect album. And it's part of the reason I do what I do. I mean, anybody who takes a CD and puts it in from the very first moment, that first song, Burnout, kicks in, it just fucking catches you and you don't let it go.
That snare snap, that...
Yeah, it's so good. And so signing off today, I'm going to finish this with a cover of that song that changed my life, Burnout. And then we're going to get out of here. We have one question from our friends online.
Oh.
So we'll address that before we go too. So thank you guys for checking it out. This is the 15-minute BJ. I'm going to cover, guys, a Green Day song now. This is Burnout. I declare I don't care no more. I'm burning up and out and going bored in my smoked out boring room. My hair is shaking in my eyes, dragging my feet to hit the streets tonight, to drive along these shit town lights. I'm not growing up, I'm just burning out, and I'll step in line to walk amongst the dead. Oh, apathy's rained on me, so much I'm feeling like a sake dream, so close to drowning but I don't mind. I'll live inside this mental cave, throw my emotions in the grave. Hell, who needs them anyway? I'm not growing up, I'm just burning out, and I'll step in line to walk amongst the dead. I'm not growing up, I'm just burning out, and I'll step in line to walk amongst the dead. You got to hear my Blink-182 influence fucking up the guitar. I'm not growing up, I'm just burning out, and I'll step in line to walk amongst the dead. I'm not growing up, I'm just burning out, and I'll step in line to walk amongst the dead. Woo. There we go. That's Burnout by Green Day. Fucked Up by yours truly. All right, so before we go, we had a question from the internet's land, and if you guys ever have anything you want us to talk about, questions you want to ask, even something you think that we won't answer, you put it in the questions or in the comment section, and we will answer it.
Challenge us.
Yeah, so anyway, this one comes from our friend Daniel from the Daniel Doesn't podcast.
All right, Daniel.
You guys need to check him out. He's on iTunes, SoundCloud, Pornhub, everywhere podcasts are. He is the Daniel Doesn't podcast. His question is, Maiden or Priest?
Oh, shit. All right, personally, Maiden. Sorry.
Priest.
Ah.
Why Maiden, though?
Mainly for the topics. I mean, there's, like I was said earlier when we were talking about the music, I like storytelling, and every single Maiden song is a story, whether it's about history. I mean,
Run to the Hills?
Dude, you have songs about Alexander the Great. Come on, man. Like, just overall Maiden.
See, it's definitely a hard choice. It's not easily made, and for the fact that they're both so really fucking influential and good in their own way. But I went the opposite direction. I was like, I love their stories and everything like that, but I just love the fucking, like, the fact that Judas Priest got away with what they did and who they were.
This is true.
In the time that they were doing it. With Rob Halford being gay and not really most people knowing about that. And he started that like leather-clad, studded look that everybody thought was so tough and so rough. But it was just a bunch of gay guys like starting this like Village People look. And everybody bought into it. I was so excited when I heard this, like, because I wasn't born this time. But like just to hear that went on and like the world I live in today, like, It's amazing that got past so many people, and they thought that it was such tough, like, I'm gonna fight you, fuck you up music, but it's probably like a bunch of songs about dudes. And like these guys are getting in bar fights about it. Like,
that could be true.
Yeah, I mean, think about like Hell Bent for Leather. Like
that I honestly think this is the best question ever musically, because if you can't really compare either band. I mean, dude, if you compare singers, there's no comparison between Bruce Dickinson and Rob Halford other than they're both awesome.
Yeah.
You know, musically, come on, man. Bass playing, Steve Harris.
Yeah, and I don't know. They both have really strong like songs and sounds and style. I just kind of like the riffs that come out of Priest, and just like that attitude that everybody bought into that was so fucking fake. I mean, it was probably real, but like, oh my God, everybody was so wrong about them right out the get-go.
Such great metal bands there.
Perfect metal bands. Excellent metal bands. And if you've never seen the movie, what the fuck is the movie? Rockstar. You need to go watch that movie pronto, because it'll explain everything to you. All right, so thank you, Daniel. Check out the Dad Does It podcast. That was a great question. And if you guys have any questions, put them in there. As always, thank you guys for checking it out. And make sure you like, subscribe, share, and change your underwear.
Yeah, that's a good one to do.
We'll see you next time for episode number 21. And there is still an elusive Tommy Chacon interview floating around out there on the internet somewhere. So I'm going to get that up there. And we'll call that episode 20 and a half. That way I don't have to be drunk while I'm posting that. So,
okay.
Yeah, we're going to get that out soon. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
So, yeah.